Now, after owning the Apple Vision Pro for a little bit of time and using the Meta Quest 3 and even owning mine for quite a bit of time as well, I will definitely tell you these two products are very two different products that the average person going into the VR space, are probably going to end up using for the most part. But I will tell you, in my personal opinion, I do think there are some ways as to why the Apple Vision Pro is better. And I do think there's some ways that the Meta Quest 3 is better. Now, I'm not going to spend so much time in this video talking about every single little thing, but I will tell you from a user standpoint, the Apple Vision Pro, I think, is probably the more optimal machine, the more optimal, VR headset as far as I can tell. And the reason for that is because of the, simplicity of just looking at something and being able to tap on your fingers. Being able to just look at something and look at different windows and kind of move things around is actually a very, very cool thing. The Quest 3 is not really built like that completely, but there is still a lot of overlap where you can move your head and you can select things and you can, move your fingers and hands around. That's the main way you kind of, interact with your whole entire headset. With the Apple Vision Pro, it's a little bit of a different experience. But that's one reason why I prefer the Vision Pro over something like the Meta Quest 3. On the flip side, I do feel like the Meta Quest 3, there's just more things to do inside of that headset right now than the Vision Pro. And that's mostly because the Meta Quest 3 has had years and years and years of people going into that ecosystem, developing products, developers making applications and games and apps and all those things across the board for the Meta Quest. So if you're brand new to the scene of the Meta verse and AR and all that stuff, there's a very distinct difference between both these products. Especially if you're somebody who doesn't own any Apple product or iPhone or iPad or MacBook, I would say a lot of the attention to detail Apple has kind of spent inside of the Vision Pro was interacting with other Apple products. But this can kind of be a detriment because if you're not currently using an Apple product, it can kind of be a little bit of an annoying thing if you're not being able to take advantage of every single little tiny thing that a almost $4,000 VR headset, has to kind of offer. I think the build quality of the Vision Pro is feels very, very good and much better than the Meta Quest 3, but it definitely doesn't even feel like a $4,000 headset in my opinion. If the Meta Quest 3 is like a $600 or $500 headset that it is right now for some models, I don't know why the Vision Pro is so expensive as it is. Of course, there's a lot of technology built inside of it, but I don't think it's 10 times the price or 4 or 5. I don't think it's 7 times the price as the Meta Quest 3. Now, I will say Vision Pro, I love the sound. I love the feeling of it in my head. And I do feel like it is very, it's a much smaller, slimmer headset than something like the Meta Quest 3. And I don't really think it feels that bad to feel in the hand, on the head for that matter. But I do think the Meta Quest 3, with it having all those years of basically, being able to kind of become the market leader inside the Meta Quest, inside the Meta VR, area, it is a very big difference. And it's very funny because I like the way we interact with the Vision Pro using our eyes and everything. But I do think the Meta Quest 3 kind of wins here a little bit when it comes down to the games and applications that are currently available. And I do think the community behind the Meta Quest 2 was very popular. But the Meta Quest 3, for it being, this kind of newer product that's going to be better, I do think there's a very big difference between these two. And I think the Meta Quest 3 kind of wins here when it comes down to that particular side of things. I will say from the build quality standpoint and from a future standpoint, I do think there's more, future ahead of the Vision Pro. If you think about it, if the Vision Pro, gets 1,000 new apps or 1,000 new games, that's double the amount of library. I'm not too sure of the numbers right now, but if they, the delta between doubling the apps and games available, it's much easier for the Vision Pro headset to double rather than something like the Meta Quest 3 to double. And if Apple goes through and markets this thing like crazy, if they spend a lot more time and effort into that sector, I'm sure they can create a smaller, slimmer product or a cheaper product for that matter for the Vision Pro side and make it very, very, kind of a big competitor to something like the Meta Quest 3. The Quest 3's main problem, in my opinion, is probably the build quality. I think it's too big, it's too heavy. I do think it feels very cheap, and that's where the Vision Pro kind of wins at. Although the Vision Pro is mostly competing with the Quest Pro, I do think the Vision Pro is going to, be a very big competitor against the Meta Quest 3. If you think about it, the Quest 3 is so cheap at $500, especially against that Quest 2. I don't think most people are going to upgrade from the Quest 3 to an Apple Vision Pro, but I do think in the future, if these Vision Pro headsets become cheaper and cheaper in the used market, once they become more available, there could be a chance these Vision Pro headsets will be less than $1,000 in the used market, maybe in a couple of years. And I do think at that point, a lot of people would be looking at something like a Quest 4 in the brand new market or a Apple Vision Pro first gen in the used market. And at that point, the delta will become even more narrow. So I will tell you, from my personal opinion, if I'm going to pick up one, if it was completely free, of course I'm picking up the Vision Pro because it's more expensive. But if that wasn't the case, I would probably just go and buy something like the Quest 3, because that is kind of like the better, that just has more features inside of it. I wish I could have the build quality of an Apple Vision Pro, but have the software of a Meta Quest 3 and have AirDrop. If I can have all those three things, that is the perfect machine. I think Apple will spend a little bit more time and effort here and create a cheaper machine, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. I love the build quality of the Vision Pro, but I think I love the software, games, and apps on the Meta Quest side. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.